Hi everyone, this is Ekaterina and today I'll be reflecting on my 4th week of studies to become a counselor. Today's video will have two main topics. First of all, I would like to share with you a structure of a typical first session between a counselor and a client. In case that any of the viewers are actually considering doing counseling for the first time but worry that they don't know what to expect or what sort of questions they might ask, well, I hope that you will find this video very useful. And in the second part, I would like to discuss what sort of topics and problems people can address to the counselor, because I feel like sometimes we're not really sure when exactly we can seek professional help. So let's get some clarity on that. So going back to the very first session and what you can expect. Well, normally the first session will have 4 key elements or 4 key parts. In the beginning part, it starts with introduction. So the counselor will obviously tell you their names, they will mention their qualifications, and they might also tell the client what sort of work style they have. This is where the client needs to listen to the counselor and start to think whether that counselor is actually a really good fit to their needs and also whether they agree with that particular working style. They will also go through their contract, and I already discussed the counseling contract in my last week's video, so if you haven't seen it yet, please follow the link in the description. And this is also the time for the client to ask any additional questions they might have, and for the counselor to remind the client the rules about the confidentiality and the cases when the counselor might need to breach that confidentiality. They might also cover some administrative discussions, such as how often they plan to meet and obviously how long they think those sessions will last. And I think it's quite important here as well for both the client and the counselor to really understand their roles and expectations from one another. Because sometimes people might go to the counselor hoping that they will have a solution for all their problems. And unfortunately, that's not really the case. And it is still the client who will have to do most of the work in order to improve the quality of their life. But the counselor will certainly be there in order to support them alongside this whole journey, and they will be helping them with all the problems, so they will work on those together. Afterwards, we progress in this little stage of your meeting, which we call the bridge. And this is where the counselor will try to redirect the conversations away from the administrative discussions back to the client and their needs. So the counselor might ask a question, for example, have you done counseling before? Or what brings you here today? Or what sort of issues you would like to discuss? The next stage, or the middle stage, is probably one of the longest in this session, and this is where the client can actually explain what sort of problems they have, and of course this is also where the dialogue with the counselor happens, and the counselor needs to apply all the skills they have learned. So they might paraphrase some of the things the client says or summarize few points. They will give the clients a very gentle push if they feel they're ever stuck, and sometimes they might ask some additional questions so that the client doesn't just skim over some topics but really goes over something over and over until they see some key elements. Now, just a quick reminder, usually the sessions take about 50 minutes to an hour, but normally about 5 minutes before you run out of time, the counselor will notify the client. And this allows them to spend a bit of time to really summarize some of the key points they have discussed, maybe agree on the actions for the client to do until their next meeting, and most importantly, bring the person, the client, back to here and now. Because during some sessions, the client might be remembering a lot of the sad events from the past, so they might be emotional. And of course, we don't want the client to leave the room feeling that way. We want them to be a bit more positive about all the good things they've done during the sessions, all the kind of new things they've learned about themselves. So it's quite common for the counselor to give so-called positive stroke to the client, whereby they might compliment them on how well they've done in this session, or just make a remark regarding something good they've done or something good that is just about to happen in the close future. So of course it needs to be sincere, but definitely a good counselor will try to always end their meeting on a very positive vibe. And of course, before saying goodbye, you might just discuss with the counselor when are you planning to meet next time, if that is required. And if you're interested in seeing a live example of such first session between the counselor and the client, then there is a very nice short video of a mock interview. I will add it in the description of this video as well. I definitely found it very informative, so please watch it and let me know what you think, especially if you don't mind sharing your own personal experience of when you did counseling for the first time. You know, did it follow the same structure as what I've described, or was it completely different? Please let me know. I would be very much interested to know what sort of experience you had wherever you're located. In the second half of our lesson, the teacher has shared with us a list of different topics that a counselor can face in their work. And one of the reasons why we've received this list was to understand our limitations. Because a counselor, in the end of the day, is still a human, and we also have our own past experiences, some of which can be quite painful. Therefore, sometimes when clients bring up specific topics, the counselor might actually find it very difficult to support the client in them. So some of the things the counselor can do in such cases is to seek counseling themselves. They might go to their supervisor, or if they really feel like they cannot help this specific client, they will talk with the client about this problem, and they will certainly try to refer them to a different specialist who will then help that client. But just be aware of that sometimes, even though you might think that your counselor is a great fit for yourself, but the counselor might have reasons also to refer you to a different specialist. I was certainly surprised by how big this list of topics was, and I'll try to add as many as possible into the description of this video. However, at the same time, it made me wonder that sometimes people really don't want to go and do counseling until the problem really grows into a big sorrow, or until they really reach the edge. And it's quite sad, because sometimes when you even have smaller problems, if you already start addressing them with a counselor, you can start working on them, and maybe you will avoid actually going that far and deeper in your sorrows. So I feel like, you know, for all those viewers, if you feel like you're having some stressful relationship in the family, or with your friends or loved ones, or even at work, or if you just constantly feel stressed out or feeling anxieties due to various reasons, maybe recently you've lost a family member and you just don't know how to deal with that grief. Or maybe you yourself are battling a bad disease or an illness, and you just need to admit or get in terms with the fact that your life might be not as long as you expected. Finally, maybe you have some addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs or even games. And again, you just want to talk to somebody about this. You want to understand what you can do to improve your lifestyle, to improve the general level of your well-being. Please seek counseling or seek some sort of help, because the earliest you will recognize your problem and start working on it, the fastest you can actually resolve it and get to a better state in your life. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please share your thoughts in the comments, follow this channel, and certainly take good care of yourself. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.